So now I would like to introduce our second speaker, Emma Reynolds. Emma is an accredited teacher of mindfulness for children and for adults. She has given many classes and teacher training sessions at teachers' conferences, schools conferences, in schools. She also gives week-long courses, face-to-face courses on emotional intelligence and mindfulness. She's been in Spain, I think, for some 20 years. She is also the director of an English language educational theatre company called Blue Mango Theatre, which is based in Barcelona. And today Emma is going to give a talk which is aimed at teachers of young learners, of adults, of teenagers. And it is called Calm in the Classroom, an introduction to mindfulness for teachers and their students. So welcome, Emma.
Lovely. Thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me here today. And it's lovely to be able to connect up with you all wherever you may be. And yes, so I am a mindfulness teacher. I'm just going to give you a little bit of information about me there. So I'm accredited in mindfulness through MBSR, which is for stress reduction, which obviously listening to Fiona's presentation earlier, obviously asking how everyone's doing at the moment in these unusual circumstances. And clearly there is a lot of stress, a lot of concern about what's going to happen in the future. Difficult situation dealing with teaching from home that probably a lot of people never really expected. And so I'm really going to be looking today at how I can introduce some very simple practices for both you as teachers and also for you as teachers that you can bring into your online classrooms. Okay, so I'm also trained through Mindfulness in Schools project to teach mindfulness to children. Before I go any further, I'd like to invite you to just participate in a little experiment with yourself. So if you could just take a moment to close your eyes and just sort of settle, okay? And just maybe as you have your eyes closed or just with your gaze lowered, notice how you're feeling right now. So perhaps you will notice how the body is. Maybe there's just one word that comes to mind. Could be tense, could be a bit anxious, tight, tired. And then seeing if you can find one word for how the mind is right now. So again, we can find anything going on there. Could be very busy, planning, worrying, maybe remembering. Again, sluggish, tired. This is just for yourselves, okay? So you're not going to be asked about this, but just noticing your state, okay? And then still with eyes closed, I'm just going to invite you to listen to this sound, okay? So thoughts may come in that make you drift away, but as much as you can, just listen to this sound and notice when it ends. As that sound starts to fade, perhaps just noticing your breath. Perhaps being able to just follow your breath all the way in, so feeling it in the nostrils, all the way down into the belly, and all the way back out again. I'm just going to invite you to do that for a couple of breaths, okay? So just noticing how the breath is. Allowing thoughts to come and go, but just keep coming back to that breath and just the sensation of it moving in, perhaps having a sense of it in the belly, and breathing out. Okay. And so just now, maybe with your eyes open again, just noticing how you feel. And again, if there is any change, whether there's a feeling of perhaps a little bit more calm in the mind and in the body, and just noticing that. And just being interested in that, because all we've done is a very simple exercise of just focusing the mind in on a sound and breath. And yet we can quite often notice that when I do this exercise, people feel a lot calmer. Okay, so there we are, mindfulness in action. I'd be interested to know if you'll see now on your screens, there's a poll. Okay, so just to ask you, how often you use mindfulness techniques in your classes? So every week, every class, once a week, sometimes, or never. Okay, so just inviting you now to go to the poll and just see, let me know how often you use mindfulness techniques. Okay, so every class, once a week, sometimes, never. And we'll just see.
Yes, people are writing in. Actually, Emma, while people are writing in.
Yes.
Emma, while people are writing in, I just wanted to say that that exercise made me feel, actually I started my breathing, started to calm. And I could feel, so that was a nice way to begin. So thank you for that. Okay, so it seems like the majority are saying never, about 78%. And then there's about 20% sometimes, once a week, 3%, and nobody is saying every class. So the majority never, but then there's about 20% sometimes.
Okay, fantastic. So there we go. So I've got a bunch of newbies. Fantastic. Great. So, interestingly, there's Louisa's experience that we very quickly can do lots of things in a very simple practice. We can focus the mind and we can calm ourselves down. And we'll be looking at why this could be really useful in the classroom, really useful in life, but how this could be useful in the classroom, whether you are online or eventually when you're out face to face. So in this session, we're going to be looking at what stress is, how does it feel, how it affects us, and how mindfulness can help teachers and students. So I've heard a little bit already from the other session, but perhaps just now with, again, with this poll, not the poll, but asking the question, have your say. What is stressful for you right now as a teacher? With your experience, if you think over this last, week or so, just maybe like one or two words, okay? What is stressful? Okay, so again, we'll just allow you a moment to answer that. Is it dealing with technology? Is it dealing with a lot of students in a classroom all talking over each other, timings? I know from personal experience, I have a 6-year-old son, and I see the difficulties of working online. It's not easy. It really isn't. So maybe just giving me a little bit of feedback as to where we are. Let's have a look. So, time management, not getting feedback. The family members trying to run a classroom inside your house when you've also got children as well. Not knowing, uncertainty. All of us dealing with uncertainty, right? Financial security, technology, kids screaming, a mess in the classroom. You're all shooting past. I've hardly got time to see them all. There's so many responses. And isn't it interesting? I bet we're all recognizing that okay, you're putting up yours, but other people's stuff that's coming up is also your stuff. So here we are in this very shared experience. Very shared experience. It's deeply stressful. Life can be stressful anyway, but here we are thrown into all this uncertainty. Okay, great. Thank you very much for all of those wonderful answers. What is stressful? So I'm going to invite you now to, again, just close your eyes for a moment or lower your gaze and just put yourself there for a moment. Okay, we're just going to do a little short exercise. I'll take you back out again, but just maybe closing your eyes, just bring to mind something that has been stressful in the last, let's say, week or so. Okay, just putting yourself there. Maybe you're trying to run the class online, the tech's not working, you've got your family making noise, the internet's not working, you're just not getting the responses that you want, you know, for example. Could be something else, could be lying in bed at night worrying about financial situations. It doesn't really matter, but just something that's got you really going, you know, on the stress. It could be anxiety, let's call it fear, you know, let's name it. Fear, worry, disappointment. Okay. Maybe you can start to feel it. So you may just notice what thoughts were there in that moment. You know, perhaps I just don't want this. I wish this would end. How's this all going to play out? What's this going to look like in 6 months' time? I can't do this anymore. I don't feel supported. Just whatever, just noticing the thoughts. And then seeing how those thoughts are feeding into an emotion. Okay, how are we feeling right now? Is it anxiety, stress? Is it disappointment? Is it something else? Is it boredom? Is there boredom here? I mean, just how much more time can I spend here looking at the same four walls? What's it feeding into? What emotion is here? Okay, and we're not judging it in any way. We're just noticing. And then finally, coming to the body. Okay, this is really key in mindfulness. We get very stuck in the head. We're really interested in what our body experience is here. So even though this thing isn't maybe here right now, we're still maybe having a bodily experience. What's going on? Is there a sensation of like tightness in the chest, the heart beating faster, perhaps? Or maybe there's something going on in the neck, tightness in the jaw, feelings of maybe a headache coming on. Or maybe it's further down, maybe there's a sort of tightness in the belly, the stomach. That can often be a place when we can, you know, when we get worried about, you know, doing a presentation, for example, the anxiety starts to kick in, we get butterflies. Or maybe lower down in the belly, or somewhere else. Sometimes people feel it in their arms, they feel it in their legs. Okay, so just tuning in to that experience. And again, just noticing that. And I'm just going to invite you to, again, return to the breath. Okay, so just taking a deep breath in. And it may help you to put a hand on your chest and a hand on your belly. So sort of like on, you know, your belly button, around that area. So breathing in, feeling the breath, seeing if you can send that breath down into the belly and holding it for a moment, and then slowly breathing out. And then maybe just doing that 1 or 2 more times. And 1 more time. So breathing in deeply and breathing out. Okay. And then just allowing your eyes to open slowly and gently. And just, we have another question here. How does it feel in the body? When we get all tense and tight, what's going on? What does the body do? So again, I invite you just to let me know what's going on. Okay, so we're getting some more ready. Okay, so I just saw the little bit going on there about the shoulders.
We'll give
painful.
them a couple of minutes.
Yeah, painful. Tension in the chest, rapid breathing, tight. So I'd like to apologize for taking you all into that stressful place. Hopefully with the breathing, you can bring yourself down again. Someone's crying, okay? So if you're really feeling it, then just allow that breath to be deep, okay? the breathing really helps to balance the emotions out. Tummy hurting, tension, yeah. So there we go. We get these thoughts in our head, and then we get all this body sensation that goes on, and we interpret it. This is anger, this is frustration, this is sadness. Okay, lots and lots of responses. Yeah. And again, a lot of responses that we will recognize. And in one way, can you see how connected we all are? That we really do go through the same sorts of things when we feel tense and anxious. So, what is stress? What is going on? Why do we feel this? What is all this tightness and tension, the heart beating faster, the breath getting short? Okay, so rather than going into another question session, because I know time is a little bit short, some of you may know this very clearly. Some of you, this may be new news. I know I do a lot of talks, and it's really interesting. Sometimes very few people recognize that what they're going through when they're stressed is that it's actually it's a survival mechanism that we all have. Every animal on the planet, we are animals, has this mechanism, and it is our fight or flight mechanism. Okay, so very quickly, you can see that our characters here are dressed in sort of cavemen and cave women attire, because really this is a mechanism that we've had. Well, we've had as animals, you know, from our lizard beginnings all the way through to our cavemen heritage. When we are calm and everything is okay, there's not much going on. Okay, but once there is a real threat or a perceived threat, so in our cavemen and women times that would be, is that a tiger in the bush? Should we do something? Our whole mechanism starts running. The amygdala, which is up here in the brain, the amygdalae really, there's two of them, starts sending a message to the body, and the body starts pumping a cortisol and adrenaline around the body to make us move, get us ready to fight, which looks like that, right? Tense and tight, the body tightening up, or flight, to run, to get going, and the heart beating faster, allowing the blood to run around our system to give us energy to actually move away from a problem. Now, this is already great when we lived in times when there were tigers in bushes waiting to eat us, but we just don't have that experience anymore. Now we're having to deal with Zoom not working, or not knowing what's going to happen in the future. And yet, as you've experienced, I took you there for a moment, so it's maybe not here right now, but just the very thought of going into that stressful classroom experience has brought on all of this mechanism. So we've got this mechanism. It's here to save us, but it can end up really, really stressing us out. And there's a really great little model here, which is, if you can imagine, this is like your head. Okay, so here's the forehead here, and this is the neck. Okay, so there's the neck stem, and then we have this very old part of the brain, okay, which is holding in there the amygdala. We sometimes called it the lizard brain. Okay, and it's really where it's holding all of this mechanism, and included in there is our emotions as well. And then really, when you think about the brain, we really think about like the grey bit on top. Now, when we are calm, we are using our thinking brain, okay? It's allowing us to communicate, to be very calm with the present moment. But the minute things started getting stressful, this mechanism literally moves this thinking part of the brain out of the way, and we have what we call flipped our lid, okay? And we're getting all stressed, and we can run around a bit headless chicken. No, I can't deal with this situation. Now, why am I showing you this? Because really, being able to learn to recognize when you're starting to flip your lid and getting stressed, and this part of the brain is starting to work, and learning how to bring this part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, back online is incredibly useful. So there you are in the middle of your session getting all stressed out. It's not working. It's all getting overwhelming. How can I bring myself back? Now, you'll notice I'm referring very much to you as teachers, but once you get it as a concept for yourselves, you can really understand how this would be really useful to bring into the classroom as well. Okay, so how do we recognize when we're flipping our lid, and how can we bring ourselves back? And what is it that's making us flip our lid in the first place? Well, as we've discovered, we've got these very, very brilliant minds that can take us all over the place, right? I invited you to remember something, and up came that experience. Now, if you look at this next image, here we are, we've got someone walking down in the park with their dog, okay? Now, what's happening to the person? Where's their mind? It's floating about all over the place, and it's bringing back lots and lots of thoughts. You may even recognize this. Finally, I can walk out in nature. How much of the time were you actually in nature, and how much of it were you thinking about? What do we think about? The past, remembering, all the if-onlys, or we're a lot of the time, especially as teachers, planning, going into the future. What if? What shall I do next? What will happen? Okay, so we're trying to plan for an uncertain future more than ever. And we're not present. And yet look at the dog. Where's the dog? The dog is absolutely in the present moment. He's smelling the flowers. He's feeling his feet on the floor. He's enjoying the sun. Who's happier? The dog or the human being? I would venture that perhaps the dog in this experience is happier because the dog is very present. So mindfulness is very much about bringing ourselves into the present moment. We get stuck on automatic pilot, okay? So there's a Harvard study that was created that looked at where we are. Where are we with our minds? And in it, they found out that we were lost in thought 47% of the time. Now, some people might think that's even low, that we are very lost in our thoughts. In the past, remembering in the future, or we are present, but we are doing a lot of thinking about the present moment. I don't want this. This is unpleasant. I wish it was different. And how did they find this out? They asked people on an app on a mobile phone, like, what are you doing right now? And where's your mind? And they found that 47% of the time people were saying things like, I'm walking down the street, but I'm thinking about an email I've got to send, or I'm in the middle of having dinner, but I'm actually mentally having an argument with somebody about something that happened last week. So I wonder how many of you recognize that scenario, that we find it very difficult to focus. And yet they've discovered that really a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So again, being able to focus the mind on the present moment would be really useful. So what can we do about this? Well, mindfulness is about knowing what you're doing whilst you're doing it without judgment, okay? Without judgment's really key, because quite often we can be aware of our experience. I'm getting really angry, I'm getting really anxious, and then the next thing we do is we judge it. I don't want this, I don't want this anxiety, I don't want this anger, and we can really layer this on. I don't want this anger, I'm so angry about being angry, I'm so sad about being sad, I'm so tired about being tired, okay? So we're seeing how we can use mindfulness to bring us into the present moment. So here is a little practice I'm going to invite you to do right now. It won't take long. Again, closing the eyes and just getting curious about how we're feeling right now, okay? Right in this present moment. So allowing you'll notice that we use the breath a lot because the breath is always present. And as we concentrate on the breath starts to deepen and relaxes a little bit, okay? So if you find concentrating on the breath difficult, then go to some other sensation, bodily sensation, such as feeling the feet on the floor or the bottom on the seat, okay? So one of the practices that I offer for kids is called a fof bok, which is feet on floor, bottom on seat. So maybe you want to go to that, just feeling the sensation of sitting here right now. And isn't it amazing how we can train the mind? 1 minute there was no seat, no feet, and the next minute, oh look, there I am. Or oh look, here's my breath. So choosing one of those as what we call an anchor, noticing where we are. And then noticing the mind, noticing what it's doing. Planning, thinking, judging. I like this, I don't like that. We leave it alone. We don't want to change it. We just want to explore it, okay? And then just turning again towards this emotion that might be here. And sometimes it's not like a big emotion. It can be just like a whisper. It can just be a mood tone. I'm just feeling a little, bored, tired, maybe a little anxious, frustrated. And again, we just leave that alone. Remember, it's knowing what you're doing whilst you're doing it without judgment. So really being kind. This is my experience right now. I don't need it to be different. And now just coming in again to the body and noticing, perhaps sitting upright, allowing the shoulders to be relaxed. What's here right now? And noticing those usual places where you feel tension. And this time I'm going to invite you to do a specific practice. I'm kind of combining practices here, which is just to breathe in. And as you breathe in, just notice your breath coming in. So maybe you might notice that as you breathe in, you can count 1, 2, or maybe you count 1, 2, 3, just in your head. And whatever you're counting in, just add 2 more to it as you breathe out. So if you're breathing in 1, 2, then as you breathe out, choose to breathe out 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? Everyone's breath is different, so just finding whatever fits for you. So breathing in, breathing out, and just elongating that out breath. And what we're doing here as we're breathing out slower is that we're really connecting with our nervous system, and we're really allowing the nervous system to know that, there is no danger right now. I don't need to be on high alert. I don't need to be tense and tight. And that in a way you're sort of saying through your breath, I've got this, okay? I'm back in control. We don't need to be holding on to this tension and tightness, okay? And then finally, I'm just going to invite you to let go of awareness of breath and become aware of sound for a moment. And notice if the mind wants to get into judging or labeling. I like this, I don't like that. And seeing if you can just drop back from that and allowing sound to just be sound, as though you're just listening to a piece of music. Maybe taking a deep breath in and letting that breath out, and then just bringing some movement to the body, perhaps just stretching, and allowing this to be very slow and very aware, okay? So we stay with this feeling of being more present, okay? More with our moment-to-moment experience. Okay, great. And again, just maybe noticing how you're feeling in the body and how you're feeling in the mind. Yeah, perhaps a little calmer. And if you don't feel calm, that's actually okay as well. There is no judging of the experience. The experience just is whatever the experience is. So if you're noticing actually, gosh, there's quite a lot of busy mind, there's quite a lot of anxiety here, allowing you, just sitting here, just continuing with the breath, really noticing the breath being deep. And as you'll see in the next image there, there's a picture of someone holding their chest and their belly. That really allows us to connect in with our breath. For some people, it's very easy to connect with the breath. For other people, it's really a bit of a challenge. So just whatever is your experience, there's no wrong. This is the lovely thing about mindfulness. There's no right answer. Whatever is your experience. But allowing whatever is here to be here and breathing in and breathing out and doing it in a very aware way just helps us to calm down the nervous system. And like I say, feeling from going from here when we're in high alert, fight and flight, we're bringing ourselves back, more aware, more present. And then we get this wise leader back online. And this is absolutely what we need as teachers. And this is exactly what we need our students. This is what we need our students to be, in this calm place. Because if their mind is floating about all over the place, anxious, worried about the future, they've really flipped their lid. So bringing them back, guess what? Now you've got all their attention. Now they can actually learn something. And the flip side of this is when it comes to exam time, this is also where we need them to be. Because quite often we can find we've flipped our lids, right? When we come to an exam, the mind flies all over the place. And this is a brilliant technique for bringing them back. Just come back to the breath, take some breaths. Perhaps this one about like noticing the breath, breathing in for 2, breathing out for 4. Okay, so we've got this chest and belly breathing. Fourth book, which is what I was talking about before. So just having an awareness of sitting here, the feet on the floor, the bottom on the seat. Noticing. And you see how all of these are coming out of the mind and into the senses. Okay, the sensation of touch, the sensation of listening. We've got another one which you might like to try right now, okay, which is the petal practice. This is a very lovely, really quick one to do, which is we just time the movement of our fingers. So we're imagining that this hand is like a flower, okay? So we concentrate visually on the hand. And as we breathe in, we open the petals. And as we breathe out, we close the petals. Okay, so just try that again for you in your own time, breathing in, breathing out. And you're really letting the breath be the leader of this experience. And you may find there's something really quite interesting about this practice. Personally, I think it's to do with the fact there's lots of things going on at the same time. So there's a visual stimuli going on. So we've got something to focus on, which for children is really useful, that they are visually looking at something. We're connecting with our breath. And there's a movement going on. Okay? And this is something that could just literally be, there's a lot of you out there saying that, don't really ever do any mindfulness practices. This could be it. Just start the practice with this. Could be enough. Or another really great one is this is a bit of a tricky one with students, okay? So they think it's about one thing, but it's actually about something else. You say, I'm going to set the alarm, and I'm just going to time you for 1 minute before we start. And I want you just to count your breaths, okay? So you don't need to do any special breathing, just breathing in, breathing out. And as you breathe in and breathe out, that's 1. Breathe in, breathe out, that's 2. Breathe in, breathe out, etc., etc. And let's just see, at the end of 1 minute, I'll let you know how many breaths you've taken, okay? And so they really concentrate, really concentrate. And then you go through, like, who had 5 breaths or more? Put your hands up. 10 breaths or more, 15 breaths or more, 20 breaths or more. Okay, and you go, oh, that's interesting. But what you've actually made them do is that they think it's all about getting the right magic number or a competition. But actually what you've really made them do is concentrate, absolutely bring their attention into the room, away from everything else, and to their breath. And they may even notice that as they concentrated, their breath will have deepened, which again is taking them from rest, from their fight and flight mechanism, into rest and digest, okay, which is this calm place where we want them to be, okay. There's another image up there, which is pause, be, okay. This comes from a Mindfulness in Schools project, which I'm, as I said before, I'm a teacher of. Pause and be, literally, in any time, in a moment in the classroom where you feel it's getting a bit agitated or you need a break, just to kind of go, okay, so everyone, let's just have a time out, okay? And just close your eyes or, lower your gaze and let's just do 3 conscious breaths. That's all it takes, just 3 breaths in and out. It's quite amazing how that can cut through everything and just bring everyone back into the classroom again. And very quickly, finally, there's this one, which is, again, nice because it's got a visual stimulus and it's very sensory as well. So breathing in, breathing out, breathing in, breathing out. Okay, so again, it's very quick, visual. And I know at the moment you're working online, so you don't have this problem that they probably are quite in a bubble at home, although maybe not, but to invite them to sort of imagine that they are in a bubble. Okay, and once you come back into the classroom again, that you still invite them to be in a bubble, so that you respect that some people maybe don't want to do these practices, and that's actually okay as well. They should absolutely be allowed to opt out, but if they opt out, then don't bother other people. Okay, but this is why I say, like, close your eyes or lower your gaze. And again, at home, this isn't really a problem because it's probably pretty safe to close your eyes. But in a classroom experience, they might not feel like it's safe because they don't know who's going to give them a poke or a push or whatever. So that's why we say just lower the gaze, and maybe just placing a pen on the desk so that they've got something to really focus on. Okay. Okay. And just very briefly, before starting the class, the reason why I focus a lot on you as teachers is because you really are the ones that bring the energy into the room or to the class. Okay, so just being aware of this. So steadying yourself with your own breath before you begin can really just calm things down a little bit so that you come fresh to that classroom. They're like dogs. They can smell fear, or horses perhaps. They can smell fear. They can tell when you're stressed. They can tell when you're calm. So just steadying yourself first before you come into the class can really help. And there's a little exercise here which is about setting attention and attitude. So we can really get into this mindset of, oh, I've got so much to do, I've got so much to do, I've got so much to do, which is really tense and tight. But there's also this, I've got so much to do, which is this whole like opening up the body and going, wow. So body posture really changes how we feel. This is very low, negative. This is really positive. Looking up and smiling, even if you don't feel like doing it, just looking up and smiling, you might even just try it now, just allows this kind of feel good factor to come in, and it can just lift your mood a little bit to support yourself to step into that next moment in the classroom. Okay. And that finally, the neuroscience out there is really showing us that that these practices work, and that the more you practice, the better you get good at them. That neurons that fire together wire together. What does that mean? Repeated behavior, good or bad, gets wired into the brain and becomes more likely to be triggered in the future. So, will you get good at what you practice? So, we're practicing a lot of anxiety and stress right now. Guess what? You get really good at it. If you start practicing being calmer in difficult situations, guess what? You get really good at it. And that with mindfulness, you start to get a choice. So it's like a crossroads. I see where I'm going. I'm getting really stressed out right now. Let me wake up to that. Let me bring a practice. Let me just come to feeling my feet on the floor, my bottom on the seat. Take 3 conscious breaths. Look up and smile. Right, now proceed. Let's just keep going. Okay? And that really, this is from Thich Nhat Hanh, which is a Zen Buddhist monk, and he has got a lot of lovely literature which you can find online. Happy teachers will change the world. Yeah, that really what you bring to your class, I know you're English teachers, but you're also bringing so much more, aren't you? How you're dealing with the stress and strains of life. That's what they're also learning. So there we go. Thank you all very much. There is a handout that's going to be made available, which has all of these practices in there. There's some links in there to maybe some meditations that you'd like to bring into the classroom, meditations for yourselves, links to my website as well if you like. But if you'd like to send me a question, then please do. I'm aware we have a few moments.
Okay.
I believe.
That's fine, Emma. Emma, that's fine. We'll just give people a couple of seconds to write in any questions or comments that they have. Thank you for those activities, Emma.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
In particular, I thought it was quite interesting when you pointed out those activities where you actually have to focus on something physical, which is difficult, isn't it? When you are trying to bring your mind into the moment, is that it is dispersed. So having some, point of reference, for example, the hand, and breathing in and focusing on that. I found that actually easier to do
Mm,
than,
yeah,
say, closing my eyes and thinking about, because the mind tends to race, doesn't it?
yeah, yeah,
At,
yeah.
at that point, yeah. Okay,
Absolutely. And
let's see.
I
Yes,
just
go
really
ahead.
encourage teachers to just try stuff, just try this. It's going to take 20 seconds, you know, and it'll
Yes,
and to keep trying, because as teachers it takes a while for things to settle and to get their rhythm. So there's lots of things there in the worksheet. So have a look. Yeah.
fantastic. Okay, so
Okay.
people are saying thank you very much, Emma. Nathima, thank you, Nathima. Thank you for the useful information. Vicky comments, thanks a lot. I will start using mindfulness as long as I return to my classes. But perhaps there are a couple of activities there, like the palm of the hand, or the star activity, where you're breathing in and up when you're going up and down the fingers. Perhaps that one is would be useful both for teachers and students now. Somebody asked, where can
Yeah.
we find the techniques you have just told us? Can we see again the slide with the open hand technique or the petal practice? Um,
Sure, let me
do you
just
want?
click back through. Yes,
Yes,
actually, so this actual image, I've put that into the handout, so it's there, and there's an
yes,
explanation of what they are, and actually the FOF box, there's even a link in there so that you can. I've written, there's a little guided script in there that you can use with students, but also it's there's an online resource which is, and I must give them a plug, Mindfulness in Schools project. Okay, it's a fabulous organisation
yes.
that trains teachers to be mindfulness teachers and to bring
Fantastic.
mindfulness into the classroom.
Great.
Okay.
I would also like to say that on the Macmillan website, we do have a section. When you go into In Casa con Macmillan, we have a section which is Tómate tu tiempo, and there are some short, easy practices in there related to mindfulness. If people would like to look at that in more detail, I definitely, Emma, I have to say, those activities actually helped me. I found in just
Yeah.
now, particularly, when you're sitting in a webinar for an hour and a half, and you're thinking about I was thinking about what's coming next and what's coming next. And there was a moment, particularly as I said, with the palm of the hand, where
Yeah.
I just started. I stopped thinking about all those other
Mm.
things that were racing around in my head. So thank you very much,
You're very
and
welcome.
thank you to everybody who has attended this on Teachers' Day. I hope that you have found the ideas, the activities that both Fiona and Emma have put forward to be of use to the current situation, to the situation that we're all living through now, and that they will also be useful